Welcome to the assembly guide for the NOOS 3D printed NAS case. There are two versions of NOOS available. The base version, designed for printers with a minimum build volume of 21 by 21 by 21 centimeters. This version supports up to 6 drives, 4 SSDs, and 2 HDDs. The extended version, designed for printers with a minimum build volume of 25 by 25 by 25 centimeters, such as the Bambu Lab P1 and X1 series. This version supports up to 8 drives, 6 SSDs, and 2 HDDs. It also allows drive flexibility, for example, replacing 2 SSDs with 1 HDD, or 4 SSDs with 2 HDDs. In this video, we will assemble the base version, but the process is essentially the same for both versions. Please note, while this video shows the general assembly process, it is highly recommended to follow along with the detailed PDF guide for your chosen version. The PDF includes full component suggestions, print settings, and additional tips for a successful build. Before starting the assembly, here is the list of essential materials and tools. I strongly recommend checking the detailed PDF guide for complete specifications, but in general you will need a soldering iron for installing heatset inserts, M3 heatset inserts, M3 screws, both 10mm and 14mm lengths, a 12mm power button, strong glue for securing magnets, round magnets, 8x2mm, a screwdriver or Allen key set. An electric screwdriver can make the process easier, needle nose pliers for handling small parts, 632 Phillips screws for securing the HDDs or Flex PSU, if you are using one. We'll start by installing all the heatset inserts in their dedicated locations. Make sure to place them in the base, in the vertical supports, and in the SSD brackets. If you're using the extended version, don't forget the HDD brackets as well. And one important detail I missed while filming, remember to also add an insert on the rear PCIe support. Use a soldering iron to press each insert in place and make sure they're aligned straight. Now, take the 4 feet of the case and add a silicone damping bumper under each one. These bumpers help reduce vibrations and keep the NAS stable on flat surfaces. Here are the side panels, with the slots ready to hold the magnets. Start with the front panel as shown in the video. Apply a small drop of strong glue in each slot, then place the magnets one by one. It's very important to pay attention to polarity. All magnets on a given panel must face the same direction. And for even more flexibility, it's best to orient the magnets the same way on both side panels. That way, they can be swapped or interchanged if needed. Once the first magnet is placed in each slot, add a second magnet underneath. These second magnets are not just for checking polarity. They are the ones that will later be inserted into the corresponding vertical supports on the base. Mark the outer face of these reference magnets with a marker. When installed later, the marks must face inward, ensuring correct polarity and perfect alignment. Now, position the panel in front of its location. Here, I'm showing the front panel, with the ventilation grid at the bottom. Add the magnets into the corresponding slots on the vertical supports, again using a small drop of glue. Make sure that the marks made earlier are oriented toward the inside and are no longer visible. You can then place the panel in position to check that everything lines up correctly. As you can see, the central vertical support is still missing from the panel. The procedure is the same. This time, place the vertical support directly onto the panel to ensure the magnets are aligned correctly. On the support, the arrow must point downward. Apply a small drop of glue in each slot, then insert the magnets, making sure the marks face the right way. Place the support onto the panel to check that everything lines up properly. Repeat the same steps for the right and left panels as well. You can also place the back panel without screws for now. This will help you install the magnets on the side panels and check that everything is aligned correctly before final assembly. Once the panels hold in place with the magnets, you'll know the polarity and positioning are correct. Let's start assembling the different elements with the SSD support. Take the 3 parts that make up this support, along with 4 3x10mm screws. Pay close attention when placing the central piece, as it has a specific orientation. The shorter side must face the shorter vertical support, as you can see in the video. Once assembled, check that the SSD brackets can slide smoothly. The first one might be slightly blocked by a screw. If that happens, just loosen it a little. Finally, use the 2 remaining screws to secure the whole assembly onto the base. Next, take an M3 by 10 mm screw and install the vertical support designed to hold the Flex PSU. Then, add the front vertical support using another M3 by 10 mm screw. Once both supports are in place, position the front panel temporarily to make sure everything fits and aligns correctly. Now, let's add the back panel and the forefeet. For this step, you'll need 4 M3 by 14 mm screws and 1 M3 by 10 mm screw. Start by positioning the back panel correctly. Then secure it first with the M3 x 10 mm screw in the center. Once that's in place, turn the case over to install the feet. You'll notice that each foot has a number, and the same number is marked under the base. Simply match them and secure each foot in the right position using the M3 by 14 mm screws. The SSDs are locked in place with screws at the back of the NAS. To do this, assemble each screw cap with an M3 x 10 mm screw. There are 4 screw caps in the base version and 6 in the extended version. The screw caps have a tight tolerance, so inserting the screws may require a bit of extra care and pressure. Next, let's prepare the fan module. Start by adding 2 magnets to the fan module and 2 more to the top cover. And once again, make sure the polarity is correct. If you're using a 120mm fan, install the adapter before placing it. For a 140mm fan, no adapter is needed. Now take the 12mm power button. Remove the rubber rings and nut, as they won't be necessary here. Pass the cable through the front opening first, then push the button firmly into place. Be careful, once the button is installed, it's quite difficult to remove. Now, let's move on to assembling the NAS if you have all the components ready. If you're using SSD, start by installing them into their brackets. Once the SSD are secured in place, slide each bracket into its slot inside the case and lock it by tightening the screws at the back. Next, let's install the motherboard. Start with the I/O shield. Place it from the inside of the case, making sure the orientation is correct. This part is optional since the case is printed in plastic, but it does make the build look cleaner. Before placing the motherboard into the case, I suggest installing all the components directly onto it. For example, an NVMe SSD if you're using one. In my build, I'm also using a PicoPSU as the power supply, so I connect it to the motherboard at this stage. Once the shield is in place, carefully position the motherboard and secure it with 4 M3x10mm screws. Now, let's install the power supply. If you're using a PicoPSU just like me, the DC input jack is located at the bottom of the case. Insert it and secure it with screws from the outside. If you're using a Flex PSU, place it against the back panel from the inside and secure it with screws from the outside. The unit will also rest on its vertical support. If no Flex PSU is used, you can install the printed cover plate instead. Once the PSU is installed, connect the SATA data and power cables that will link the drives to the motherboard and the power supply. Because space is tight inside the case, it's best to connect these cables now, before installing the HDD. I also recommend using 90-degree SATA connectors, at least on the HDD side, to make cable management easier. Next, let's install the hard drives. Mount each HDD onto its bracket, making sure the connectors are facing the front of the case. In this video, I'm only showing the HDD brackets from the base version. For the extended version, additional HDD brackets are included. They are slightly different and are designed to be mounted in place of some SSD brackets. Then slide the bracket into its dedicated rail until it reaches the back. The bracket will lock automatically once the front latch tab clicks into place. To remove it later, gently lift the latch tab and slide the bracket back out. Now, let's close the case with the fan module. Position it on top of the NAS, making sure the power button is facing the front. Secure it in place with 8 M3 by 10 mm screws. Take your time to tighten each screw evenly so the module sits flush on the case. Let's install the cooling fan. The case supports both 120 mm and 140 mm fans with a maximum thickness of 28 mm. If you're using a 140 mm fan, simply place it into the slot. If you're using a 120 mm fan, you'll need to use the adapter before installing it. Make sure the fan cable is routed toward the motherboard side, and most importantly, the fan must be installed in exhaust mode, so air is pushed upward out of the case. Once the fan is secured, you can also place the top cover to finish closing the NAS. Now, let's add the dust filters. Each side panel has its own filter, which simply slides into place. There is also an additional filter underneath the base. These filters are optional, but they help reduce dust buildup inside over time. Finally, let's install the side panels to complete the assembly. Slide each panel into place and check that everything aligns correctly. If you notice a slight misalignment between the vertical supports and the fan module, simply loosen the screws, adjust the parts, and then retighten them. Once both side panels are secured, the NAS assembly is complete. If you haven't already done so, remember there is also a dust filter under the base that needs to be installed. The assembly of your 3D printed NAS case is now complete. Before powering it on, double-check that all screws are tightened, the cables are properly connected, and the fan is installed in exhaust mode. This guide focused only on the hardware assembly. For the software setup, whether you choose Unraid, TrueNAS, or another system, you'll find plenty of tutorials and resources online. You can download the full assembly guide in PDF format with all print settings and component suggestions directly on MakerWorld or in the description. If you've enjoyed this project, don't forget to share your own build and tag me so I can see your version. Thanks for watching and enjoy your news.